Okay, so now we're going through PLC2, which is the transformation. So here again is the quick overview. So it starts with the pre-pre and then the PLC1, which is the opportunity. I also like to call it the journey. PLC2, which is the transformation. That's where we're at. Another way to think about this is PLC1 is the why, PLC2 is the what, PLC3 is the how or the how-to. So quickly, the overview. This is about the what. This is about the transformation in their lives, how it's going to change. And there's generally more teaching in PLC2 than in PLC1. You want to dig deep in some type of tip or strategy here. For example, in my PLC2, when I'm selling PLF, then the first one is about the sideways sales letter, which is this overall structure of the launch. The second video is I go through the main 3 primary types of launches, and I go deep on the seed launch. So I go into some real deep teaching there. So here's an overall framework for PLC2. You want to open up with a thanks and a recap for PLC1. You want to thank people for their comments and questions from PLC1 and give a quick recap of PLC1. Now, the thing to remember is that there's sort of 2 universes of people that are going to be watching PLC2. And it's very simple. It's going to be people that have seen PLC1 and people that haven't. Because some people, for whatever reason, they won't have watched that first video, won't have consumed the first piece of pre-launch content. Maybe they didn't click the email, or maybe they got there and they didn't look at it, or maybe they're starting to look at it and they got distracted and they didn't complete it. Either way, you have to remember that. You have to have that in the back of your mind, that there are some people that are just coming in, this is the first video. So even if they come in and they hear you thanking people for the comments and the questions and the reactions from PLC1, even if they haven't seen PLC1, that's fine, because then that's sort of getting them thinking, well, maybe I should go check that out. And then you want to give that quick recap. You don't want to spend 20 minutes doing that. You want to spend 30 seconds or 45 seconds doing that. And you want to remember, again, there's those 2 universes. So even if someone has seen PLC1, they might have seen it a few days ago. So a quick recap is great. And thanking them for their comments and questions is great, because even if they didn't leave a comment or question, they still, it's building the social proof. It's building the social proof. And then they're thinking, well, maybe I should comment on this one, and then he'll thank me in the next time around. So one of the things you can do with this recap is you can go watch how TV does it, because they're doing such a great job. There's so much great TV now, and I'm not a huge TV watcher, frankly, at all, but it's gotten a heck of a lot better than it used to be not that long ago. And if you look at some of the series fiction that's happening right now, and you watch how they sort of quickly can recap maybe a whole season or 2 seasons in just a few seconds, then you can certainly recap one video in a few seconds as well. So that's how you want to open this first video. Because remember, this is a story arc over the 3 videos. It's not like individual videos. You want to tie them together. You want to recap the opportunity. That, the first video is all about that opportunity, and you want to keep on showing that opportunity, because that's the bright shining star in the future for people, is that opportunity to change their lives, to have more pleasure and less pain, whatever it is, whatever your niche is, you're changing someone's life, and you want to keep on recapping that opportunity for their life to be better. Don't assume they've seen that or paid attention to it or remember it from PLC1. And even if they have, even if it's still vivid for them, it's still a great thing to revisit that opportunity. You want to recap your positioning. You don't want to necessarily hit them over the head really hard with this, but you always want to remind people why they should be listening to you. Then you get into the meat of it, where you're doing some real teaching. In here, you could present a case study, or you can just talk about someone you've worked with, or you can talk about your results. And then you do some real teaching. And you'll see this in the example videos we've got for you from other PLF owners, as well as in what I've done in my videos. And then again, you come back to crushing those objections. You want to talk about the top 2 or 3 objections, raise them and answer them. And then similar to the way we did it in the first video, the first PLC, you want to foreshadow the next PLC. You want to let them know there's something coming and what's going to be cool in it. And you want to build anticipation for it. And then the call to action, the acronym there is CTA for call to action. And again, this is generally you want to ask for a comment on your launch blog or maybe a share in social media. Okay, now some examples here. And these are just some phrases you might want to think about sprinkling in. Use them. Definitely put them in your voice. So at the beginning, thanks for all the comments on that first video. It's just awesome. Now, this is super kinder and gentler kind of wording. It's awesome to know there were so many kind-hearted souls. I would probably, thanks for all the comments. It's just awesome that there's so many people that are really interested in creating a business that they love. Something along that lines. In the last video I showed you, this is how you lead into that recap. And how I discovered the answer. That's also part of that recap. And what's possible. That's leading into the vision for their future, for that opportunity, for this bigger, better, greater life. Now I want to take you deeper into this area. That's how you would transition into some of the teaching. A lot of the people have been asking about, that's how you lead into the objections. I've talked about here for this one and for PLC 2 and for PLC 1, that we have to raise and answer objections. Okay. But it isn't like you're going to say, hey, I know one of the objections a lot of people have, or a lot of people have been objecting to this because of this, or a lot of people don't believe me with this. It's just like, a lot of people have been asking me about this. And then you talk about the objection. A lot of people have been asking me about how do you launch without a list? And then I go into the objection, which is I don't have a list, right? A lot of people have been, they've told me that they've tried to grow tomatoes and they keep on getting eaten by the rabbits. And let me tell you how I avoid that. And frankly, I'm not a big tomato grower, so I don't know if rabbits are a problem, but I'm just making that up. But that's how you lead into objections. A lot of people have been asking about, their fingers get sore when they try to learn a song on the guitar. A lot of people have been, asking me about, like, when they try to meditate, all these stray thoughts that come in their head and they don't feel like they're doing it right. That's how you raise those objections. Really important. In the next video, of course, you're foreshadowing the next video. And then just scroll down, leave a comment for me. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me what your number one question is about creating a meditation practice. Tell me how I can help you grow bigger tomatoes. So when you ask for that, don't just say scroll down and leave a comment. Say, scroll down and tell me what you're thinking about this. Scroll down and tell me what your first launch would mean to you. Scroll down and tell me how you would feel if you could hit the ball 20 yards further off the tee when you're golfing. That's how you ask for comments. You want to direct people and tell them how to leave a comment, what to comment about. And if you do that, you'll get probably 3 or 4 or 5 times more comments. Now, just a few tips for making your content more powerful. The video length. I sort of talked about this at length when I was talking about PLC 1, but don't ever look and say, boy, so-and-so's videos are so long and I got to make mine that long. You need to make them as long as they need to be and not 1 second longer. I know there are times in the past where I've had PLC 3 was like 50 minutes long, which is insanely long. But I really felt like the way I'd put it together, it needed to be that long. But you know what? Originally it was 55 minutes long. And I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked to get it down to 50 minutes. So it's not like I sit down and say, boy, I want to make a 50-minute video. Or my PLC one's about 25 minutes or so. It's not like I sit down and say, oh man, this is only 21 minutes. I got to figure out some way to make this 4 minutes longer. No, what's happening is that's initially like a 35 or 40-minute video. And then I cut it and I cut it and I cut it. And when I'm talking cutting, I'm talking about like, I'll script these out. I actually have a word for word script. And I'll just keep on deleting and tightening it, and then I'll put it away, and then I'll come back to it, and I'll tighten it, I'll tighten it, I'll tighten it. So if you see it as 25 minutes long, that's the final video. Believe me, it started off a lot longer. And I found ways to cut it. And I cut it to what I consider cut it to the bone and couldn't make it any shorter and have it do what I wanted it to do. You need to do the same thing. You want to make them as short as you can and tell the complete story. Don't say, wow, Jeff's is 25, I'm going to make mine 25. It's only 18 now, but I got to figure out some way to fill those other 7 minutes. Make it as tight as you can. And as you get more and more and more experienced at creating a more compelling, tighter messaging, then you can make it you can give yourself a little more leeway and make it a little longer, but always make it as short as you possibly can. Now I've got screen capture versus full motion. You know, a lot of people don't want to do full motion, direct to camera, we call it, talking head kind of video, and because they don't feel comfortable doing it. And if that's the case, then you go ahead and use screen capture. For example, what I'm doing right now is screen capture. In a lot of ways, screen capture is technically easier, but to make a really interesting, compelling PLC video, it's often actually a little bit harder. And when people can see your face on camera, it does create a more powerful connection to you. And if you're, and it generally makes you feel more real and relatable. And so if you can, I would go direct to camera. It tends to feel more natural and more informal, and it makes you easier to connect to. Now, the thing is to do that, you have to be on camera, and it's initially can be hard. And people say, oh, Jeff, you're such a natural on camera. And the reality is there's nothing natural about me on camera. It's just I've been on camera enough where it starts to feel more natural, and I get better at it. And I still continue to get better at it. I'm way better this year than I was last year. And that's one of the reasons you might have noticed on my blog, I put out a weekly video, a weekly free video. And since I started doing that, and all year long, I'm recording video for that. Then when it comes time to do my launch videos, I'm a lot more comfortable on camera. It's just, I've just spent 52 times in the last year being on camera. Now it's time to do pre-launch video, no problem. So, that last bullet here, the most important thing is that you're comfortable. So given the choice between having you do direct to camera where you're not comfortable versus screen cap where you are comfortable, do the screen cap where you are comfortable. On your launch pages, you always want to link your previous pre-launch content. So when they're watching PLC 2, they can click over and see PLC 3 really easily. And another thing, this is something that we've really just started doing in the last few years, is if you add in a PDF, some type of a worksheet, a checklist, a mind map, people love that. They absolutely love that. Now we give you this PLC 2 checklist. Definitely scan through here and try to hit all these points, and you'll end up with great PLC 2.